Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Still plugging away at Christmas cards. I cannot believe how close Christmas is getting, but I am determined to get at least 25 videos for this series. It's just a matter of OCD for me at this point. So, I've had this little gift card that I picked up at Walmart weeks ago, and I've had the idea in my head for the longest time to make a card inspired by this gift card. And I was going to settle on using Simon Says Stamp's picture book, Deer and Santa, and then I was going to use the snowman. Because at the time, for a long time, there wasn't penguins, and I was really frustrated. And like I said, I have kind of minor OCD. It's not major, but sometimes it just bugs me. And I put off making it because it just bugged me. And then December happened, and Simon released not one, but 3 penguin dies. So I was like, yay, I can finally do this card. So finally sitting down to make this card. It was just loads of fun. So I used my SIDEKICK for most of the die cutting because I think most, if not all of these picture book dies will fit through the little SIDEKICK machine. And it's just convenient to have it sitting right in front of me and I can quickly run through. Because with all of these dies, you know, you end up doing multiple passes per die to get all the little pieces. And another reason I'm like obsessed with the picture book dies lately is I keep all my little scraps. I used to never keep little tiny scraps of paper, but now I pretty much keep all of them because there's always dies that you can, you know, you want to die cut a tiny little heart or this, that, or the other thing. So I always use my scraps now. They come in handy. So I toss them in folders, or I toss them in the container, or the folders I keep the cardstock in, whatever. And other times I'll just have, you know, a little pile of them that I'll dig through and do for things like this. So, you know, little bits of black cardstock especially, always need those. So that's basically what I did with all these pieces. I was just die cutting tons of little scraps to create all my pieces. And then I just have a piece of, like a scrap of copy paper that I'm adhering all these to. I'm finding that's the easiest way to do this. And when I adhere them, I use my Nouveau adhesive, and I don't apply adhesive all the way to the very edge of these die cuts. And I like sometimes, if I can, using the negative space just to line up all these pieces so it's easier to, you know, assemble. And I make sure not to put that adhesive all the way to the edge because when I trim these out, I want to kind of undercut that copy paper so you can't see it. So by not gluing everything right up to the edge, it just makes it so much easier. And you can kind of see here, like after I've got everything assembled, I can kind of angle my scissors and get behind each image and then quickly just cut away that copy paper. Super quick and easy. And it's holding everything in place, and yet you can't see it. And I like using the copy paper too because it doesn't add any extra bulk. If you're worried about it being, depending on how you're adhering these to your cards, you could back these with cardstock. It would just be a little bit more work to cut it out. But I haven't had a problem with the copy paper. So I had all 3 characters, all die cut, all assembled. And then I'm going to adhere the little scarf on this deer and then adhere his little antlers. These are so cute. They're just so much fun. So I decided with these to amp it up a little bit by adding some little highlights with my white gel pen. And I also wanted to draw stripes on the scarf because on the gift card, the deer is wearing a little red striped scarf. And actually on the gift card, the penguin's wearing a scarf too. I was frustrated that I didn't have any of my dies. None of them were the right size for a scarf to fit on the penguin. I suppose I could have hand cut one of it. It wouldn't look the same. So I just left it. I was okay with that. So I added all my little highlights and whatnot with the white gel pen. And then for my background, I have a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock that I'd cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I'm going to sponge a couple of Distress Oxide inks here. I'm going to use Salty Ocean and Peacock Feathers ink. So I started with the Peacock Feathers, just pulling it from the top of this piece of cardstock, and then I'm adding the Salty Ocean on top of that, just towards the top of this. Again, following the gift card, that was kind of the colors along in the background of it. So kind of I went back and forth with those, blended it out really easily. Didn't spend too much time on it because a lot of it's going to be covered up. But got that all sponged. Once it was dry, I used the new Sparkling Snowflakes Breeze die that I just got. So I ran that through my die cut machine, so die cut the little stitching lines and the snowflakes and that into the background. I just love that. And then I decided to trim this down just a little bit so that this piece will actually be 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So I'm going to trim all that down. And then on the gift card, they're all the characters are peeking out from behind a fence that's covered in snow. And pretty much all night last night. I was wondering, I was like, how am I going to create this fence? I was determined to do it. So what I ended up doing was just grabbing a scrap of this kind of brown shade of cardstock. And then I have the Basic Stripes stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. And I just took 2 of these stamps. They're quite long, but I only need the top portion. So I just attached the top portion to an acrylic block of these 2 stamps. And I'm just inking them up with frayed burlap Distress Oxide ink. Not stamping these perfectly. I didn't want them to stamp perfectly because it's supposed to be a wood fence. So I want that just kind of rough look to it. And just stamp them all the way across, and then the solid line stamp, I'm inking it up and stamping it off and re-stamping it many times, so I've got lighter and darker versions, and in the end this created the perfect little wood fence. So after that was dry, I die cut a piece of white cardstock with one of the Drifting Stitches border dies, so that will create my little snow on the top of this fence. So I adhered that into place and then flipped it over and just trimmed off that little bit that was hanging off the edge. And then I'm coating all of these, the fence and all the characters, with the foam tape I just got from Simon. This is the Simon brand foam tape that's really thin. I showed it in my last haul video. You're not crazy if you have this. I just saw a comment on my YouTube channel. The backing paper with this is a little bit more difficult. If you're used to the 3M foam tape, this is more difficult to remove the backing paper of this. But it's very similar to other foam tapes I've used and other dimensional foam adhesive, and like, you know, that struggle with the backing paper. So I didn't mind it, and I still am liking this foam tape because it's so much thinner. It adds that dimension, but it's not popping everything up like crazy. So I used a bunch of it to coat the back of this to pop that up as well. So then there's that little bit of a shadow behind the die cut snowflakes in the background. I decided not to use any sentiments at all. I wanted to keep this really simple. I did use the large die from the Simon Prettied Up gift card die set, and actually die cut some Doodlebug pattern paper. There's just this red kind of polka dotty pattern paper with that. Adhere that to the inside of my card, and that's going to hold that gift card that's kind of the center stage. And when you slide out the gift card, you can write, you know, underneath to the recipient or write on the back of the front of the card, whatever works. But that finished off the card. So just really fun and adorable, and just kind of a really cute way to give a gift card for Christmas. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used. Check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping my videos, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!